Hey guys, today we have lesson number 10 and task number 4. The topic is two-dimensional arrays. So what we are going to do, create a method called FillMatrix to fill an array with random numbers in the range from -15 to 15. Create one more function to find a minimum and maximum elements of the array. And we have the method name here. We are going to use this name for our method, and we have two nodes here. Node number 1, the signature of the FindMinMaxArr function must be as we have here, and node 2, to find a minimum and a maximum, you can see as you did it in lesson number 5, but you have to know it. We will remember it, but you have to know it, how to find the minimum and the maximum. And the most important thing, what we are going to have in our console window. So the first we are going to have this sentence, then the user inputs the number of the rows, then we are going to have this sentence, and then the user will input this number for the number of the columns. Then we are going to have this sentence, and we are going to print out the elements of the created array. So it will be after we will call this function, because a FillMatrix function will create our array and will fill it with these generated elements. After we will call this function FindMinMax, we will get this answer in our console window. Min equals -14 for this array, and max equals 11 for this array, and we see that this number is the greatest one, and this is the smallest one. So it will be minimum and it will be maximum. Okay, let's create our project. We have to call it like we have it here. File, new project, console application. Okay, and in the Solution Explorer window we have to rename our program file. We have to rename it to this. Okay, and we have the main function. We are going to have here all the console sentences. So what we are going to have in console window, to print something out or to read something, to enter from the keyboard something, we have to do it here, and all the declarations also must be here. So let's start with our array. We need to create array to declare the array, two-dimensional array of integer numbers. So we know that it will be integer array, int. The array means this square brackets with comma, because we have double two-dimensional array. Then we are going to use the name for our array. Let's call it R, just R, or let's call it R. Okay, it will be new int, and it's square brackets. We need to put how many columns, how many rows there will be, and how many columns there will be. And we are going to ask it from the user. So we will copy this sentence to prompt the user to enter. So console write line, and we will paste it here. Then we will declare the variable called rows for the number of the rows, so we need to parse it because it will be of string type. Parse and console read line, console read line. Okay, and the number of rows we have to pass here to our declaration of the array, and columns there will be here. So the same we need to put for our columns. Let's copy it, but we will change of columns. How many? Please enter the number of columns there will be, and we will call our variable columns to understand that there will be the number of our columns. We have declared our array, and now we are going to fill this array with the values, and we are going to use FillMatrix method. FillMatrix method. We have done it. We did it in lab number 2 of this lesson, but we can do it one more time. So we will need to have 3 parameters here. 3 parameters. The first will be the matrix. Matrix, or the array, 2-dimensional array. We have it here. So we have to pass here this array to fill it with generated numbers. Then we have to put min value and max value for the range, for these boundaries of our random numbers. So it will be min value, and max value for the random function. Min value and max value, and we have to initialize these values with these numbers, so it will be integer type, and we will do it. We will put int keyword, then min value we have -15, we have it here, the range -15, and max value the same. Max value we have just 15. Max value something here. Okay, and now we call this method, but it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist because we haven't created it yet. Yes, so we just use this colon to generate the signature of the method. Let's click this yellow bulb, and we have generated method. We just click it, and we have the signature of our array. So we have private static void FillMatrix. We have 3 parameters here: array, 2-dimensional array, min value of int type, and max value of int type also. We just don't we don't need this line, and that's all. Okay, let's use our random function to fill our array with some numbers. So these numbers are going to be created with the random function. They are not needed to be printed, to be inputted by user. They are created by random function. So we need to have an instance of random function. We need to put random, it's a class name. Then we will call it rand equals to new random To generate the values for all the elements, we need to use nested loops. The first will be for loop with I counter. Int I, the first index equals to 0. And then we have to use condition while I is less than array length, method get length. And the parameter 0 means that we will iterate the rows, numbers of rows. So it means how many rows there will be. And we have to increase our counter, I++, the body of our for loop. This loop is outer loop, and we have to nest the inner loop, for loop, with counter j. Int j equals to 0 also, and while j is less than r, get length 1. 1 means the number of the columns, j++, and the body of our nested for loop. And here we are going to initialize our to set the values, random values for our array. So r of I, j, it means that we will have here each of our element, and we need to set to some value, to some random value. So we have rand dot, and next means that there will be generated some number between mean value and max value. Mean value and max value we have here. So it will be negative 15, and there will be just 15. After, we can print out this element to the console window. So we can see V without line, because we needed to print out in one line. Okay, $sign, and then we have array, of course in curly brackets, array of ij, and let's do it with space. Okay, after this inner loop, we need to put new line to make a new row in our two-dimensional array. So CV, double tap, and that's all. So we just printed out our array. So let's try to do it, but it's not the task is not finished. We'll just to check how to see how this FillMatrix works. Okay, we have here, please enter the number of rows, for example 4. Please enter the number of columns, for example 5, and we have them here. We see that it is not so good, so beautiful, because when we have a negative number, it is more signs, more symbols for negative numbers, and it is not so beautiful. Let's do it beautifully. When we have here, when we print them out, we will use toString method. toString. Okay, and the method pad_left with the parameter, for example, 4 signs, 4 symbols to each element, and we don't need it anymore. Okay, let's try now. for example 4 and 5, and now we have beautiful outputting of our two-dimensional array. And now we are going to create a new another method called FindMinMaxArr. This method have to return minimum and maximum values within our array. So it has to iterate over the array. For example, here we have an array. It has to iterate over the elements of this array, and to find minimum value it is here, and maximum value it is here. And then we are going to print them out. So the parameters of this function has to be matrix or array. We have it minimum, it is a ref modifier here, and maximum, it is also ref modifier here. Ref modifier means that we are going to accept from our main method the value of this variable, and to accept it from the main method for this for this variable also, for minimum and for maximum, to accept and to return back to the main program. So we need something from the main method to be here and to be here. Then we will change it to this value and to this value, and return back to the main program new values, minimum and maximum. Okay, we have the signature here, but we are going to do it ourselves. So if we need to pass something in minimum variable and in maximum variable, we need to pass some values. So we need to have it here in our main program. Let's create our min and max variables. They are integers. So min, it is always equals to int 32 dot max value. Minimum has a max value, and int max equals to int 32 dot min value. Now we can call our function. It doesn't exist here. We haven't created it, but we will call it to make the signature ready for us. So let's call it find min max arr, and here we have our array, comma, we have ref min, because we know that a ref modifier has to be put before our parameter when we call our function, and ref max. Okay, now we can use this ray sharper, so we can click our yellow bulb to generate method, and we have it here. We see that we have integer two-dimensional array, and we have ref int min parameter and ref int max parameter, and we don't need this line. So we have to find the minimum and the maximum. Of course, we have to iterate through all the values of our array, and we need nested loop for this. So again, we have to use for loop. Outer loop uses I as counter, while I is less than array.get length 0 and I++. Okay, and nested loop with j counter, j equals to 0, j less than array.get length 1 j++, and here we have to put the condition to see if the element of our array is less than minimum. If the condition is in rounded brackets, if array of ij is less than min. So if it is, we are going to set to our min the value of this element. Okay, int here we have forgotten. Okay, so here we have found the minimum value. Every element will be iterated, will be checked if it is less than minimum, and if it is less than minimum, we have to assign its value to minimum. And after this checking, we will pass this minimum to this parameter and return it back to our calling method here, return back here. So the same you have to do with max. We have found minimum, and the same I will put here the comments for you to understand what you are going to do here. If statement to find maximum. It is the same as we have here. Yes, it is condition for finding minimum, and you have the same to find maximum. So it will be 1, 2, 3, 4 lines as here. Okay, and now when we return these values to the main program, to the main function, we need to print this out. We have it here. We need to print this out. So we need console write line. Here we have $, and inside this quotations we have minimum, but instead of minimum we have the variable of minimum, and instead of maximum we have the variable of maximum. And it is better to use a new line before we will do it, just to make the separation between the output lines. Okay, if we will run this program now, it will find minimum, but it will not find maximum, because you need to do it. You have to finish this program. So let's use Ctrl F5 to start our program. So let's make 5 rows and 3 columns. Okay, minimum is this. It is correct because it is the least number of our elements. But maximum we have its wrong number because we haven't done it. We haven't found our maximum value. So it just took this value because it is minimum value of all the integer numbers. So we passed this minimum value in when we call our function here. We pass it here, and here we didn't change anything. For minimum we changed it, we found the minimum value, and for maximum we didn't change it. So you are to do it yourself. Okay, now that's all. You have to finish this, and to save the program and to upload this file. Okay, goodbye now.